It's been a hot minute since I've shared one of my grandmother's vintage recipes, so why not get in the kitchen and whip up one of those, because yeah, I'm feeling it. Hey guys, welcome back to the Thrifty Spice! I have all these recipes that were handed down to me that were from my grandma, and I have them now, and I thought, hey, it would be really awesome to maybe once every couple months do a segment on one of her recipes. So that's what we're doing today. It's banana bread made with rum-soaked raisins, coconut, and toasted walnuts. How can that be bad? I think we should probably just get started. Alright, this is what you're gonna need to make this fantastic banana bread. You'll need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. You'll need 1 stick of unsalted butter that was softened at room temperature. Very important. 3 over-ripened bananas. You'll need 1/3 cup of brown sugar. You will need 1/2 cup of rum-soaked raisins, and I will show you how to do that in a second. You will need 1/2 cup of shredded coconut. You will need 2/3 cup of toasted walnuts. You will need 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 1 egg. You'll need 1 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. You'll need 1 teaspoon of ground ginger. You will need 1 teaspoon of baking powder. You'll need 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt, and you will need a standard loaf pan that has been sprayed with non-stick cooking spray and lined with parchment paper just to ensure that it comes out of the pan. This only takes 15 minutes to put together. So you're gonna put 1/3 cup of rum into a small saucepan along with 1/2 cup of golden raisins. Put that over high heat until it comes to a boil. As soon as you see it come to a boil, turn the heat down to low, and then you're just gonna keep your eye on it for the next 15 minutes until the rum has dissolved into the raisins and they become plump. And then you take it off the heat and just put it into a separate bowl to cool. And there you go. And now the second step before we start this process is preparing our toasted walnuts. I have 2/3 cup of just whole walnuts, as you can see. We need to toast the nuts to bring out the flavor. So let's go to the stove. So right here I've got just a really small skillet, no oil in it. I'm just gonna let it heat up. Put in the walnuts. I'm gonna put the heat to medium. Just wanna keep your eye on them because it will burn if you don't keep your eye on them. Trust me, I know from experience. This will only take about a few minutes to toast up. So it's been about 4 minutes. I'm gonna bring them over to my cutting board. You should let these cool a little bit before handling, but I'm a maniac and a professional, so I'm just gonna start cutting them. I'm just gonna give them a really rough chop because that's what the recipe calls for. That's perfect. I'll set that aside for now. The butter. You can use a standing mixer. You can use an electric handheld whisk. I'm gonna show you how to do this by hand. So I've got the butter in the bowl. We need to cream the butter and the sugar. So I'm adding 1/3 cup of brown sugar. You can use light. Dark brown. I'm using dark brown because that's what I have on hand. And I'm just gonna get it in there with my rubber spatula and cream those together. So you wanna get it light and fluffy and get those really big chunks of sugar incorporated into the butter. Now I'm gonna switch to my whisk, my vintage whisk. All right, now we gotta add the egg. You always want to crack your egg into a separate bowl before you add it into your batter because you never know when you're going to get a bad egg. I'm going to add the egg. And we're going to add 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. And please make sure you use pure vanilla extract. It makes all the difference. And now I'm just going to get in there and whisk it all up. This will take about a minute. Awesome. That's good for now. I'm setting this mixture aside. Now we need to work on the bananas. I'm mashing it up really quickly. You can use a fork. I really like to use the potato masher. They don't have to be perfectly pureed. Just want to get them mashed a little bit. Nice and chunky like that. Add them straight into the bowl of the butter and sugar mixture. And I'm gonna gonna give those a nice little whisk. It's already starting to smell insanely good. We're gonna add 2 cups of plain all-purpose flour. I'm just measuring it off with my hands, placing it right into the bowl. I gotta measure out a ½ teaspoon of kosher salt right in there. And then right here, I've got the baking powder, the baking soda, and the ginger. Just add it right in there with the dry ingredients and the nutmeg. Of course, you can use already like grated nutmeg, but I just have fresh on hand and that's what I prefer. So I'm gonna grate in a really good amount, just a teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg. I've got all my dry ingredients right in there. The rum-soaked raisins. Oh, so excited. I'm gonna place those right in there. You're just really putting in all the rest of the ingredients. It's really simple. The shredded coconut, one of my favorite ingredients. Coarsely chopped, toasted walnuts. I mean, how could this be bad? Like, honestly. I'm getting in there with my rubber spatula and just gently folding everything together. You do not want to overmix by any means. You just want to mix enough until you see that the flour is fully incorporated, and you want to scrape from the bottom up of your bowl. Here's how it goes. Pour this beautiful batter as best as you can right in there. Oh, I got a few flour chunks, that's all right. I'll even that out in a second with my spatula. I'm getting in there with a little tiny offset spatula. You can use a butter knife and just leveling it out as best as I can, just so it bakes evenly. It's not all wonky looking. Before I put any loaf or cake in the oven, I always give it a little tap on the counter. Now we're gonna place this in a preheated 350-degree oven for exactly an hour. We're gonna rotate it halfway through cooking just to make sure that it gets the most perfect even bake possible. And usually with loaves, they get a little too browned on top while it's baking, like after the 30-minute mark. So what I do is tint it with a little tin foil, with a little aluminum foil, just to make sure it's not too brown. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Let's pop it in the oven. I ended up baking this bread for an hour and 5 minutes to be exact, and then I took it out and I let it cool completely onto a wire rack and get really excited. I'm really excited. So let's get to it. I let this cool completely on a wire rack. You can take this out of the pan after 30 minutes if you want to serve it hot, but I like to cool it completely, and oh my God. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? You can see the bits of walnuts running through it and the coconut. Oh, and the raisins are popping through. It's moist as can be. Wow. Holy nutmeg. Really good. It's not that sweet at all. This is freaking phenomenal. Thank you guys so much again for spending a little time with me today. Doing these kinds of recipes really just warm my heart, and it brings me a lot closer to my grandma. Being able to bake these recipes, I get to know her a little bit more and bring these recipes to life again, and they're really awesome. Happy eating. Hope you have a good one, and see you in the next video.